Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to DogCatFox and Friend. That's DogCatFox. Wowie, wow, wow. And I am the friend. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. It is the day after 4th of July. That makes it July 5th, because it's easy to count. Although I was told there would be no math. Apologies for the brief delay there. I got waylaid by other things. But here we are. So let's rock us like a hurricane. Who's joining me on this beautiful Saturday afternoon? Advocatus Diaboli, hello. The Alexander, good afternoon. Kieverdam, hello. And thank you, Kieverdam, as always, for providing the link to the GoFundMe for our friend Angela Arriaga. Guys at the top of the chat box, click on that link. You can help out Angela start her home-based business. But even if you can't donate, please do share that out on social media. That would be appreciated as well. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Kieverdam, for providing the link. Mike Savage, Blarg, Shady Grin, hello. Who else is here? Mike R, hello. JPS, hello. Juliet, good afternoon. Anyone else? Spoonie the Rebel, hello. Frosted Glass, hello. The Blakester, hello. Kirsten Scholl over on the X Machine. Yes, everyone, I am simulcasting over on X. So if you have an X account and you see this over there, please do retweet it. Appreciate that ahead of time. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good afternoon. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a theme going on here. Well, two themes. I have swimming and I have deportation. That's how I've decided to conjoin these things together. Swimming and deportation. Let's start off with the swimming stuff first. You may have heard, or maybe you haven't, that Penn has revoked Leah Thomas's records, bans trans athletes under Trump administration deal. Oh my gosh. So a man who cheated in defeating all the women in the women's competition doesn't get to walk away with the spoils. Oh, shucks. Transgender athletes at the University of Pennsylvania will no longer be able to compete for the school's women's teams following a new agreement between the university and the U.S. Department of Education. You mean men will no longer be able to compete in women's sports? Because you don't see a whole lot of women competing in men's sports. Really only goes one direction, as they say. The university will also strip men of historical credit for past accomplishments in the form of program awards or records. In a statement Tuesday, the Department of Education announced that Penn has, quote, entered into a resolution agreement to comply with the Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. The department has accused the university of violating Title IX in recent years by allowing transgender women, aka men, to participate in women's sports. Title IX prohibits sex-based discrimination by any education program that receives federal funding. Yeah, sex-based, not declared gender-based. Under the agreement, Penn agreed to, quote, restore to female athletes all individual Penn Division I swimming records, titles, or similar recognitions which were misappropriated by male athletes allowed to compete in female categories, unquote. You see, it doesn't sound nearly as confusing when you say it like that, does it? When you're trying to cover it up by saying, transgender athletes. No, it's men competing in female sports. That makes it much easier, doesn't it? Quote, today's resolution agreement with UPenn is yet another example of the Trump effect in action. Thanks to the leadership of President Donald Trump, Penn has agreed to both apologize for its past Title IX violations and to ensure that women's sports are protected at the university for future generations of female athletes, said U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. McMahon. Get over here, McMahon. Whenever I see that name, I just think of Jesse Ventura. Like, oh, you better believe it, McMahon. Something like that. Quote, today is a great victory for women and girls, not only at the University of Pennsylvania, but all across our nation. McMahon also added that her department, quote, commends Penn for rectifying its past harms against women and girls. Thomas came out as transgender, or conveniently declared such, and began receiving hormone therapy in 2019 after 2 years of swimming for Penn's men's team. Yeah, how well did Leah Do in the men's team. She sat out in 2020 through 2021 due to COVID, and then joined the women's team for the 2021 through 2022 season, where she met the NCAA's hormone level requirements. The NCAA has hormone level requirements. Wunderbar. The new agreement with the federal government resolves an investigation the department launched against the university for allowing Thomas to compete on its women's team in 2021 and 2022. Before the deal, the government had threatened to send the case to the Justice Department or cut federal funds, which they should have. They should have done it anyway. They should have cut the federal funds anyway. In a statement required by the Department of Education as part of the agreement, Penn President J. Larry Jameson, rather than J. Jonah Jameson, said Tuesday that although the university's rules during the 2021 through 2022 season complied with NCAA eligibility rules at the time, the university agreed to the resolution so that current student athletes could continue to compete. Yeah, really, this is all sacrifice, guys. Quote, this is a complex issue. It's not a complex issue. It is the least of all complex issues. Men should not compete in women's sports. The end. That's it. Quote, this is a complex issue, and I am pleased that we were able to reach a resolution through the standard process for concluding Title IX investigations. Jameson's statement said, quote, our commitment to ensuring a respectful and welcoming environment for all of our students is unwavering, unless you happen to be a female athlete who we allow to be completely trounced by a man unfairly. Aside from that, Quote, at the same time, we must comply with federal requirements. Now, at the same time, you don't want to lose your federal funding for something as stupid as fighting for allowing men to compete in women's sports. We know where the rubber meets the road on this one, but glad you finally came around. At the same time, we must comply with federal requirements, including executive orders and NCAA eligibility rules, so our teams and student athletes may engage in competitive intercollegiate sports, unquote. Penn agreed to send personalized apology letters to every female swimmer, quote, who experienced a competitive disadvantage or experienced anxiety because of policies in effect at the time, Jameson said. Policies in effect at the time. It wasn't our fault. It was the policies at the time. It wasn't common sense. It wasn't basic fairness. It wasn't an acknowledgement of why we have gender-divided sports in the first place. No, it was the policies, guys. We're sorry your feelings got hurt because of the policies at the time. We're sorry that your dreams, your drive to compete in sport might have been completely waylaid by the policies at the time that said you weren't good enough because we're letting this cheater in. Yeah, all right. Before Tuesday's agreement, Thomas held 3 of Penn's 6 individual freestyle swimming records and was part of 2 program record-setting freestyle relay teams. Wow! It's amazing, isn't it? Thomas went on to win a national championship in the 2022 women's 500-meter freestyle event. Yeah, there's a key word in there, right? Becoming the first openly transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division I title. Becoming the first man to win a women's NCAA Division I title. Yeah, okay. The university's website already lists other athletes who hold school records that Thomas set in freestyle swimming. Quote, competing under eligibility rules in effect at the time, Leah Thomas set program records in the 100, 200, and 500 freestyle during the 2021 through 2022 season, a note on the page said. So you took away the records, but you still have a notation about the records? Okay. Ivy League record books still have Thomas listed as the record holder in the 200 and 500 meter freestyle events. She also holds individual Ivy League meet records in the 100 meter and 200 meter freestyle events. Since Thomas rose to prominence, if you want to call it that, the Ivy League has issued several statements in support of her and pushing back against efforts to limit her participation and recognition. Well, Ivy League, I hope you get your federal funding pulled eventually. The NCAA has not publicly commented on Tuesday's developments. It updated its policies on February 6th to ban transgender women from participating in women's sports, to ban men from participating in women's sports. Wake up, guys. That decision came one day after Trump issued an executive order, quote, to rescind all funds from educational programs that deprive women and girls of fair athletic opportunities, unquote. The order has faced multiple ongoing legal challenges, some of which will probably be dimmed now with the Supreme Court decision on activist judges. In the Department of Education statement, Paula Scanlon, a former teammate of Thomas who competed as a Quaker from 2018 through 2022, thanked the administration for the pressure to put on Penn. Quote, as a former UPenn swimmer who had to compete against and share a locker room with a male athlete, I am deeply grateful to the Trump administration for refusing to back down on protecting women and girls and restoring our rightful accolades. I am also pleased that my alma mater has finally agreed to take not only the lawful path, but the honorable one, Scanlon said. Quote, today marks a momentous leap in repairing the past mistreatment of female athletes and forging a future where sex discrimination plays no role in limiting girls' potential, unquote. Title IX's application to transgender athletes has vacillated, good word, depending on which political party has controlled the White House, you don't say. Former President Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, issued rules protecting transgender students under Title IX in 2024. Still, the Department of Education announced in January it would return to 2020 Title IX rules it instituted during Trump's first administration, enforcing Title IX, quote, on the basis of biological sex, unquote. Since its return to power, the Trump administration has maintained that transgender people should not be able to compete in sports alongside women. You mean, has maintained that men should not be able to compete in sports alongside women. Why do you keep rearranging definitions here? Stop it. It argues men hold a biological advantage over cisgender women. Jeez. I'm done. I'm done with that article. New York Times, stop it. Stop trying to sugarcoat reality with some kind of weird fetish you have. It's annoying to read because it tries to mess with my brain. Let's see, Abacus Diaboli. Has any lawyer ever tried to argue that keeping men out of women's sports is in its own way a type of discrimination based on sex? Ever tried to argue? I can't say. I'm not a legal scholar. It may have happened. But, Title IX was not meant to have the two genders competing on the same team. It's supposed to make way for equal access and resources to sports of both genders, so that the boys' football team didn't get a higher budget than the girls' football team and things like that. Susano Richard, this Title IX, can't remember. It is, this is a Title IX case, or at least a Title IX argument, if nothing else. Also, I could be mistaken, but Susano Richard, I think I saw you over on the Bounding Into Comics stream earlier today. Am I correct? I think I am. Also, Adabisi, good afternoon. Look at that masculinish dude. Yeah, the ish part. It's really about the ish. But, yes. Okay. I thought so. But, so there's our first swimming theme. The first theme here is swimming. And what else goes along with swimming, you might ask, if not for actual, professional or semi-professional swimming? Well, let me tell you about lab-grown salmon. Would you eat it? No bones, no scales, no problem. The first lab-grown salmon sold in the U.S. Wild Type's cell-cultivated salmon is the first seafood to earn FDA approval marking a significant milestone for the alternative protein industry. The alternative protein industry. The dinner special at Can, a Haitian restaurant in Portland, Oregon, features cubes of salmon with pickled strawberries and spiced tomatoes. Why can't people just eat normally? It's served with a rice cracker and a bold claim, quote, "Be the first in the world to taste the future of sustainable seafood." The coho salmon, pinkish orange and streaked with lines of white fat, wasn't wild caught in Alaska or farmed in Chile. It comes from cells grown in tanks at a former microbrewery in San Francisco. With every subsequent word, you are de-selling this idea to me. It comes from cells grown in tanks at a former microbrewery in San Francisco, and in late May, it became the first cell-cultured seafood to receive safety approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The salmon is intended... It's not salmon. This salmon is intended to be consumed raw, like sushi, or cured, as in ceviche, I think. Can is the first restaurant to offer it, incorporating it in that light summer dish. Austin-based chef Yoshi Okai served it as sashimi at the Aspen Food and Wine Classic this month and will be including it in the omakase lineup at his Texas restaurant starting in mid-July. Let me ask something, and I hope they'll tell us. How much is the cell-grown salmon as compared to salmon? Same amount, same weight, etc. I'm curious to find out. Frosted Glass, thank you so much. Is alternative protein industry code for sperm bank? Well, I wasn't going to say anything. I'm a mature commentator, and I would never make such innuendos. That's what you guys are for. Thank you, Frosted Glass. Appreciate it. At least 2 lab-grown chicken products have previously gotten the FDA's green light, but the okay for the salmon, made by California-based Wild Type, marks a significant milestone for the alternative protein industry, which has been working to produce substitutes for traditional meat and fish that can help meet, M-E-E-T, the world's growing demand for food while minimizing environmental and climate impacts. Okay, I'm waiting for price. What is the price of a cube of lab-grown salmon as compared to a cube of actual salmon? Quote, "We're not looking to put fishermen out of business. I have a feeling you won't be able to. We're not looking to eliminate the need for fish farming." Okay, then what are you trying to do? Said Justin Kolbeck, a Wild Type co-founder. Quote, "The amount of seafood that is currently in demand and where it's projected to go are so high we actually need all of the production that we're doing from those other tools, plus ours, plus maybe some help from the plant-based world to be able to meet that demand." Okay. Let me ask you something. Is there, and I don't know the answer to this question, that's why I'm asking. Is there currently a worldwide shortage on seafood? Specifically salmon. I mean, I realize it's seasonal, that sometimes the yields are higher than others in some years versus others. But I'm going to talk about it like in the general sense. Is there some like massive worldwide lacking of salmon that this is supposed to fill a gap for? How to make lab-grown salmon? Oh, I can only imagine. While alternative protein can be made from plants or fermentation, cultivated seafood primarily comes from animal cells. Okay. Cells are isolated from specific species, providing the material needed to establish continually usable cell lines. At Wild Type, cells derived from Pacific salmon are grown in big steel tanks and fed with a mix of nutrients, including amino acids, vitamins, salts, sugars, proteins, and fats. Quote, imagine a kind of fancy Gatorade, unquote, Kolbach said. That sounds like the most disgusting I don't even drink Gatorade. I don't think Gatorade's that great, but he described how the cells are then rinsed in a centrifuge and transferred into a commercial kitchen where they're mixed with plant-based ingredients to help create form and structure and provide further nutritional elements. The entire process takes about 2 weeks to create a 220-gram uniformly cut block of fish. By comparison, it can take at least 2 years for a living salmon to mature. Okay, again, cost. When do we talk about cost? How much does it cost to make and purchase, then, a block of this salmon as compared to throwing out a line into the river and catching a fish? The potential benefits of lab-grown salmon. Seafood, especially fish, is a key source of protein for billions of people around the world, a number that is projected to rise significantly in the coming years. You mean because of people having kids? Yeah, the population's going to go up, yeah. One 2021 study estimated that global fish consumption will increase nearly 80% by 2050. Okay. But wild stocks are being threatened by overfishing, and while farmed seafood has helped alleviate some of that burden, aquaculture can also have its own environmental challenges. Okay, human-made alternatives could be particularly helpful. Okay, let's spot the words here. Could be particularly helpful for popular types of seafood such as tuna and salmon, said Max Valentine. It sounds like the name of a noir detective. Max Valentine, senior scientist and director of Oceania's Illegal Fishing and Transparency Campaign. Quote, it shouldn't be seen as the holy grail to save oceans. I hadn't even thought to think of it in that fashion. But I do think it would provide an avenue for alternatives to reduce pressure, she said. Okay, that's damning with faint praise right there. Quote, we're addressing food security, said Lou Cooperhouse. Okay, are these names just being like generated by something? Founder and president of Blue Nalu, a San Diego-based company making cell-cultured bluefin tuna. Quote, Wild Type's approval was really great for the whole industry, unquote. Cost. I'm scrolling down here because they're all like patting themselves on the back. Do they ever mention cost? Will people eat lab-grown salmon? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No red snapper. And no mention anywhere in this article about cost. Yeah, you can do it. You can put it through all this process. You can make a block of lab-grown salmon, but is it feasible for the commercial market? Because so far you've just made it sound like a glorified novelty. So there you go. That's reporting from the Washington Post on lab-grown salmon without telling us anything about the economy of it. Because why bother? That'd be the first question I'd ask. How much am I paying one versus the other? Suzanu a la Richard. Some are endangered, some aren't. It's tricky. This isn't going to fix it. No. No, we need to have different policies about fishing and farming and a whole bunch of other stuff. This lab-grown, Rube Goldberg process of making a block of salmon, I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be far more expensive and not as cost-effective to do that versus just fishing. I have a feeling. I could be wrong. Frosted Glass, is this going to be Jurassic Park with fish? I wish. Man, bring back some, ancient fish species. Hey, bring back the dodo. Why aren't we working to bring back the dodo? All right, let's resurrect the dodo of all the creatures. Poor little dodo. Walter Tomaszewski. It's free? I'm sure. You know what? I bet it is. I bet it's all just a charity experiment. It's like, yeah, we grew it in a lab. Here, just have it. Feed the world. Make it a better place. For you and for me and for the entire salmon race. Well, now we're going to move on to the next theme of the show, and that is deportation. Let's start off with a little bit of a sports deportation. Boxer Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. arrested by ICE to be deported. Los Angeles famed Mexican boxer Julio Cesar Chavez the Jr. I always want to say Chavez Sr. was arrested for overstaying his visa and lying on a green card application and will be deported to Mexico where he faces organized crime charges. I wonder why he was lying on his green card application. It's like, I don't want to go back to Mexico. The arrest comes days after the former middleweight champion lost a fight Saturday against influencer-turned-boxer Jake Paul in Anaheim, California. Boy, oh boy, Jake Paul. Man, he took down Tyson. Now he's taken down Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He punched him so hard he went back to Mexico. The Department of Homeland Security said officials determined that Chavez should be arrested June 27th, a day before the fight. It was unclear why they waited to act for days after the high-profile event. I think the high-profile event was why they waited for days. But anyway, Chavez, 39, was picked up on Wednesday by a large number of federal agents while he was riding a scooter in front of a home where he resides in the upscale Los Angeles neighborhood of Studio City near Hollywood, according to his attorney, Michael Goldstein. Quote, "The current allegations are outrageous and simply another headline to terrorize the community," Goldstein said. Many people across Southern California are on edge as immigration arrests have ramped up. Well, I'll tell you what, the only people on edge are the people that shouldn't be here. That's the long and the short of it. Prompting protest, well, not only people that shouldn't be here, but also, in some cases, the employers who are benefiting off of exploited labor. Now, those guys should really face some consequences. On top of getting rid of the people that should not be here, the people who are profiting off of exploitative work should really have the hammer come down, in my opinion. Let's see. Many people across Southern California are on edge as immigration arrests have ramped up, prompting protests. That's one way to put it. And the federal deployment of National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to downtown Los Angeles. Well, National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to federal facilities in Los Angeles. Yes. To try to protect federal property and federal personnel. Goldstein said he did not know where Chavez was being detained as of Thursday morning, but said he and his client were due in court Monday in connection with prior gun possession charges. This keeps getting better and better the more that I read it. He's innocent. These charges against him. Lying on a green card, overstaying his visa, gun charges, organized crime issues back in Mexico. Chavez's family issued a statement Thursday afternoon in support of him. The Los Angeles Times reported, quote, "We have full confidence in his innocence," the family said. "We firmly believe that the proper course is to allow the competent authorities to carry out their work without external pressure or speculation." Well, the proper authorities are carrying out their work. Before his bout with Paul on Saturday, Chavez had fought just once since 2021, having fallen to innumerable lows during a lengthy boxing career conducted in the shadow of his father, Julio Cesar Chavez, one of the most beloved athletes in Mexican history and a member of the International Boxing Hall of Fame who won championships in several weight classes. Oh, so what you're telling us is that Jake Paul's win wasn't really that impressive at the end of the day. Imagine that. The son, who has battled drug addiction for much of his career, has been arrested repeatedly. Oh, okay. In 2012, he was convicted of drunken driving in Los Angeles and sentenced to 13 days in jail. And in January 2024, he was arrested on gun charges. Police say he possessed 2 AR-style ghost rifles. He was freed on a $50,000 bond and on condition he went to a residential drug treatment facility. The case is still pending, with Chavez reporting his progress regularly. He split his time between both countries. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers detained Chavez for overstaying a tourist visa that he entered the U.S. with in August of 2023 and expired in February of 2024. The agency also said Chavez submitted multiple fraudulent statements when he applied for permanent residency on April 2, 2024, based on his marriage to a U.S. citizen, Frida Munoz. She is the mother of a granddaughter of imprisoned Sinaloa cartel kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Yeah, I'll have another story about marriage here shortly. Actually, a couple of stories. U.S. officials said he is believed to be an affiliate of the powerful Sinaloa cartel that is blamed for a significant portion of Mexico's drug violence. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services flagged ICE about Chavez on December 17th. December 17th? Well, that was before Trump took office, okay? Saying he is, quote, an egregious public safety threat, and yet he was allowed back into the country without a visa on January 4th under the Biden administration. The agency said, well, shocker of shockers. Mexico's Attorney General's office said an arrest warrant against Julio C. was issued in Mexico in March of 2023 in an investigation of organized crime and arms trafficking allegations, and that Mexico on Thursday initiated extradition proceedings. A federal agent who spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak publicly on the matter confirmed to the Associated Press that Julio C. is Chavez. Oh my gosh. The agent declined to explain why Chavez was not arrested earlier in Mexico, despite going back and forth between the two countries multiple times. Well, I don't know, guys. Do you think the authorities in Mexico might have been in some way, shape, or form overtaken by the cartels? Just a thought. In Mexico, word of U.S. agents arresting a well-known athlete prompted mixed feelings. Martin Sandoval Peñaloza, a newspaper seller in Mexico City, said he believes President Donald Trump wanted to make him an example. Sounds more like he's been walking the line since before Donald Trump became president again. But anyway, quote, I think that the U.S. government, in this case Trump, is up to something, he said, adding that it was, quote, to attract media attention, unquote. Well, I agree. He is up to something. Enforcing immigration laws. And sure, everything you know what? Tell you what, everything you say I'll stipulate to. My follow-up is, and? Oscar Teneda, a Mexico City storekeeper, said he wasn't surprised given the boxer's troubles. Quote, I think it was predictable because he has had a lifetime of drug use, he said. Despite being widely being criticized for his intermittent dedication to the sport, Chavez still rose to its heights. He won the WBC middleweight title in 2011 and defended it 3 times. Chavez, 2011, 14 years ago. Okay. Let's see. Chavez claimed to be clean for the Paul fight. He looked in his best shape in years. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Well, anyway, so poor Julio. Poor Julio. Facing the music. Yep. Well, like I say, if you don't follow the rules, if you try to get around them, if you try to cheat, one would hope karma would visit itself upon you and consequences would fall. So there we go. Susanna, we are cracking down on the cartels at the moment. Yes, I mean more so than in times past. And we'll see how that goes because the Mexican government and authorities therein are reluctant to cooperate in a lot of ways. For various reasons, I'm sure. Abdicat, so he wanted media attention, he would have had them grab you on the way to the ring. That's the other thing, too. It's like, why deprive all the people that paid for their tickets the fight that they wanted to see? And then we can kick them out. Let's see. Adabisi, I don't care how good of a boxer he is. Apparently he's not much of a good boxer. he might have been something 14 years ago, but apparently he's kind of been quite lackadaisical about it in the time since. Trump can't deport him. Well, I mean, Trump doesn't. ICE and the legal system does that. But, so that's our first deportation story. Now let's get into a deportation story that I might be controversial, might not be, but let's find out. Judge dismisses deportation hold on family of suspect in Boulder attack. Do you remember this guy? Mr. Molotov cocktail, trying to burn up people doing a march on Israeli hostages. A federal judge has dismissed the deportation hold on the family of the suspect in an attack on pro-Israel demonstrators in Boulder. Courts filed an order on June 4th to prevent the deportation of Mohammed Salomon's wife and children. According to documents obtained by 11 News, that deportation hold was due to confusion over whether their deportation would be standard or expedited. Okay? With the hold now blocked, deportation proceedings can proceed normally. Solomon is accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at a group of people demonstrating in support of Israeli hostages on June 1st. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Solomon approached the group at 1:30 p.m. and threw 2 Molotov cocktails that he had allegedly ignited. When throwing one of the Molotov cocktails, officials say Solomon shouted, "Free Palestine!" Once in custody, investigators say Solomon said that he intended to kill people at the demonstration. 15 people and 1 dog were injured. Okay, well, the dog alone is worth him getting kicked out. Solomon faces over 100 charges related to the attack, including 12 federal hate crime charges and 118 state charges. And apparently his wife and children are slated to go bye-bye. I wish the story would give some more information on the nature of the family's status and such, but it doesn't, so I guess I'm just out of luck. But so they wanted to kick the family out. There was a hold put on that, and now they can proceed normally until the next hold is put on by some district judge trying to be an activist or something. He goes to jail. They go back to their home country. I guess that's what you get. Attribution, WTF, that's terrorism as far as I'm concerned, and he's still been living here. Well, not anymore he's not. He's in custody now. Not quite sure what he was up to beforehand, but the dead man, free hat. Free hat? What? I missed something. There's a reference I'm not getting. Also, Cameraman Jay, hello. And, if Jake Paul beat him, he is at the stage of his career of taking dives. Yeah. Man, I got so excited. I remember getting so excited about the Tyson fight. Well, I got excited before the Tyson fight because there were those videos of Mike Tyson training, and he just looked like an absolute beast. And I thought, no way. Jake Paul is going to be hamburger. Round 1, hamburger. What a disappointment that was. What a disappointment. Also, Adam Nixon, hello. I am also Canadian. Well, we can't all be perfect, Adam. It's okay. Moving on to other stories. So now, and this is where I might get a little bit of pushback. On the Twitter machine today, I was faced with a story that I was told put the counter to all of the good activity that ICE has been doing of late in closing down the leaks at the border and finding bad guys and arresting people and so on and so forth. This story was put to me as counterpoint to my gladness over ICE's activities over the last 6 months or so. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to read this story. I'm going to go over some stuff. I could be accused of having something of a cold heart when it comes to stories like these. But I guess I'll let you be the judge as we proceed. Got two stories kind of like this. Let's start off with this one. ICE arrests Mississippi father. Mississippi father. My first reaction to that headline, and I have already read this, so this is one of the few instances where I've already read this. I thought to myself, Maryland man? ICE arrests Mississippi father at his citizenship hearing, threatening deportation. Now, this story is from about a month and a half back. So it's not new news, but I wanted to go over it anyway because I think it highlights something about both reporting and facts in reporting. One morning, sitting in an immigration office in Memphis, Casper Erickson found himself transformed. Only a day before, he was a welding foreman, a husband and father of 4 who lived on a family farm in Sturgis, Mississippi. Now, he was a detainee, bound and shackled to the sterile white seats of a detention shuttle in Tennessee, headed southwest, barely able to wriggle. It was here, late on April 15th, with chains around his belly, hands and ankles, that the Denmark-born man fully realized that what he was experiencing was not a brief disruption of his many years in America, some clerical error that could be unmade in an afternoon's discussion or with the swift intervention of a judge. Clerical error. Okay, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement transported Casper to the Central Louisiana ICE Processing Center, also known as the LaSalle Detention Center, in Jena, Louisiana, with a dozen other detainees. Not sons, not fathers, not husbands, but detainees. Aliens. In the eyes of the law, that remains his primary designation. It's a legal term. I don't know what to tell you. ICE deposited him in a facility where he shares a cell with just under 100 other people, cycling in and out, sharing little in common beyond the uncertainty of their future. Casper has never been charged with or convicted of any crime. He has not been accused of being a member of MS-13 or Tren de Aragua. What led the government to rip Casper out of the arms of his family was, to the best of his knowledge. Okay, this is where we start seeing that every piece of information we're getting is coming from one direction. Again, to the best of his knowledge, a single document, Form I-751, appropriately clinical, a, quote, petition to remove conditions on residence, was just one of the endless documents he needed on his decade-plus journey to American citizenship. Now, just for reference purposes, what is a petition to remove conditions on residence? And I'm quoting from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website, quote, use this form if you are a conditional permanent resident who obtains status through marriage and want to apply to remove the conditions on your permanent resident status. So when you get married and you're not currently a citizen, you have to file this form in order to start the process of naturalization as someone who has gotten married. Let's keep going. Casper and his wife, Savannah Hobart Erickson, never submitted that form. Roll credits, which was due all the way back in 2015. Okay, so I did a little extra research on this story because this particular article did not say. These two got married in 2013. They had 2 years to submit this form. They didn't do it by 2015. Okay, and now here's where the article starts throwing in elements of the story that are completely irrelevant simply for the sake of trying to tug on your heartstrings. And now, like I say, I don't want to come across as a complete cruel monster here. What's about to be listed is tragic, but it has nothing to do with their failure to follow the rules. Okay, so let me start again. Casper and his wife, Savannah Hobart Erickson, never submitted that form, which was due all the way back in 2015, 10 years ago. She had suffered a stillbirth, losing their first child, and in the days of grief that followed, the deadline slipped right past them. 2 years. 2 years they had to submit it. But Casper's naturalization continued unimpeded. Did it? He corresponded with immigration officials numerous times over the next 10 years and says agents never warned him that a critical document was missing. Well, you got married in 2013. You had 2 years to submit the piece of paper. You waited till the last second and then forgot because of a personal tragedy. And then over the next 10 years, nobody ever mentioned it. I guess it never came up, according to these guys. He paid taxes each year, reliably contributing a portion of his labor to the nation he already felt a part of. Well, if he felt like he was a part of the nation, he wasn't. He knew it. Together with Savannah, they had 4 more children. Okay. He became a foreman. 4 children, foreman. Foreman at his job, and as 2025 arrived, he prepared for the final meeting with Immigration Services to formalize his naturalization and become an American citizen after spending nearly half of his life building a family here. Savannah left that meeting alone. Casper's understanding is that his failure to submit I-751 led to a removal order. One Immigration Services issued without successfully notifying the Ericksons in 2019. Okay, so let's go over the timeline again. They get married in 2013. They have 2 years to submit this form. They do not submit this form by the deadline in 2015. And then they just forget about it. And 4 years after the fact, so from the middle of the Obama administration all the way through to the tail end of the Trump administration, they just have no idea. And nobody ever told us. There's a level of responsibility that falls on someone's shoulders here, and I think I know who it is. But anyway, a deportation order was issued in 2019 that nobody told them about. That was 10 years after his first arrival in the U.S., 4 years after their miscarriage. Why don't you talk about their marriage? Because that's when the whole thing started. And 6 years before he was chained to a seat on a bus in Memphis. Okay, but let's think about this as well. So the removal order is issued in 2019, near the tail end of the Trump administration. And just before, I'm thinking, the pandemic, which took up everybody's attention and resources. And then the Biden administration did nothing for the entirety of that tenure. And the family did nothing during the entirety of that tenure to make sure all their I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And then, more than a month had passed since Savannah last saw Casper, as ICE took him away in Tennessee. She doesn't know when he will be either released or deported, doesn't know if their lives will be uprooted to Denmark. I mean, there are worse places to have to go, I guess. His birth country. She is 6 months pregnant with their 5th child, due in August, and even now she doesn't know if he'll be there when she gives birth. We didn't even get to say goodbye. Casper Erickson spoke to the Mississippi Free Press from the LaSalle Detention Center on the morning of May 20th, confirming first that he was safe and not experiencing any of the abuse reported in some ICE facilities elsewhere in Louisiana. In his experience, the GEO group-run detention center's food is palatable, the staff is professional, and the medical care is attentive. He spends most of his day in a wide cell, housing upwards of 90 other detained immigrants at a time. He gets a couple of hours of yard time each day, a routine pleasure he says is critical to his sanity. Even so, Casper has already lost about 25 pounds during his detention. Okay, I'm scrolling down a bit because I'm waiting for... It starts complaining about ICE. Okay. This was Casper's story. Until his detention, he had expected the appointment in Memphis to be the final step before his naturalization. Over the last year, the messages he received from their immigration portal seemed encouraging. "We are actively reviewing your Form N-400 application for naturalization," a message on September 12, 2024 read. "Our record showed nothing is outstanding at this time." About your Form N-400, I'm assuming. Then on March 7th of this year, quote, "We scheduled an interview for your Form N-400 application for naturalization. The meeting was only 1 month away. 2 hours after the Ericksons arrived at the office in Memphis, awaiting an early morning appointment with a case manager, the trap sprang. A law enforcement officer, whom Casper recalled being a U.S. Marshal, was waiting for them when the meeting began. The first stage was disbelief. Even the men who were about to collapse the Ericksons' lives seemed mortified at the circumstances." Did they? Quote, "I will say the case manager in Memphis and the U.S. Marshal had a real sense of remorse because they realized it was an unfortunate circumstance," Casper said. Okay. The case manager insisted that he had done what he could, the reason for the 2-hour wait, to resolve this simple matter of paperwork. Quote, "He said his hands were completely tied," Casper said. "He told us that, had it been a couple of months earlier, during the previous administration, the situation would have probably been different. With the new administration," the official told him, "things have changed a lot, so they had to treat me like they were going to." Golly, if only there'd been something to be done in the previous decade since you missed the deadline to submit one piece of paperwork and then did nothing about it, didn't check it for 10 years. ICE whisked him away to a holding facility in Memphis, and that was it. Both of the Ericksons, still in the early stages of denial, had no notion that this was the beginning of an odyssey. Quote, "We're still thinking this is one of those situations like where he got picked up and now we're going down to court to bond him out and go home," Savannah told Mississippi Free Press on May 20th, "like it was a DUI or something. He was gone before the heartbreak set in. We didn't even get to say goodbye." Okay. I don't need to read the rest of this for all the details. All right, so is this a sad story? I feel sad for the kids. Is this the most egregious of violations that I've ever heard about when it comes to being in the country illegally? No. Is it one of the stupidest and most irresponsible little things? Yes. See, here's why I have a limited amount of sympathy for people in this situation. I've told this story before. I had a coworker who my company had contracted with a company he had been working for several years, and then that relationship, the contract ended. But we really liked this one guy that we worked with over there in the Philippines. And so my boss was like, "Hey, we should see about having a car alarm go off in the background and distracting me." That really annoys me. While that's going on, I will hold that story. Oh, good. That stopped, thankfully. Thank you, Frosted Glass. Denmark, I thought ICE only deported brown people. I know, right? But, ICE is an equal opportunity deporter. Anyway, so this guy at the Philippines, who was an amazing worker, my boss wanted to see about hiring him on and bringing him over here to work for a time. And he did. And he got a work visa and went through all the hoops and got a work visa, came over here. Well, while he was here, he decided that he wanted to move here permanently and become a legal resident. So he went back to the Philippines. And then there was this long drawn out, he was able to do some work remotely and everything for us, and he was still an employee. But he went through this long, arduous process of filing the papers and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and meeting the deadlines and this, that, and the other. And as an observer, I got updates on his progress in getting all this stuff done. And I was both amazed and a little frustrated on his behalf for all of this Byzantine, labyrinthian stuff he had to go through. It was almost Kafkaesque at places, of him just having to meet this deadline, or he can't get on that plane because this checkbox didn't get checked by the government. It was crazy, and I thought, man, I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the fact that it's not an easy thing to do to move to this country and become a permanent resident on your way to becoming a citizen. But some of this stuff just seemed ridiculous. But the thing was, he did everything that was asked of him, even when it was asinine, because he was following the rules. And he understood that there was a burden that he had to meet to have an opportunity to come and live in the United States. And, he didn't miss any deadlines. His life wasn't perfect. They had a whole bunch of stuff happen in their lives and elsewise at the time, but he made sure if the calendar said, you have to make this phone call, you have to submit this piece of paperwork, you have to make this appointment, whatever it is, he got it done. So does this one piece of paper... Well, first off, the other thing, too, is besides the fact that everything that we're hearing about the circumstances that led to this is coming from both the family and this publication that is obviously skewed one direction in reporting. Aside from all that, which makes me a little wary of whether or not this is accurate, is it silly that one piece of paperwork purportedly led to this? If that is actually true, I will agree. It's a little silly. At the same time, 10 years and 2 years after getting married. I mean, if you guys understood the situation the husband was in at the time of getting married, that he's not a legal citizen, that there are procedures you have to follow after getting married to a citizen for a non-citizen to work their way towards naturalization, I'd be hitting all those marks, man, and I'd make sure I got everything taken care of, and I'd double check that they received everything, and I'd send it, registered mail or something. So the idea that over the course of a decade, nobody mentioned this to them or they didn't think to ask, somewhere between these two things, I just don't buy it. Now, does this guy seemingly, if I'm believing this story, does this guy seemingly end up being the worst possible person that you could give a break to? No. But Trump has got a zero tolerance kind of deal on this. And if the order was issued 6 years ago, but it just was never enforced, I don't know what to tell you. And if they really were in touch with immigration and customs enforcement for as long as they say, an issue for removal was posted in 2019, and what, the Biden administration just didn't tell them about it? I don't get it. Keeverdam, so the wife was... Yes, the wife is a citizen. Yes, the wife is a citizen. I read in a different story where they met, I believe they met in college, roundabouts like 2009 or 2010 or something. And then they got married in 2013. And so they had 2 years to file this form in the process of getting him naturalized or working towards citizenship. And they just didn't do it. And then in 2015, so supposedly roundabouts the deadline time, they had a personal tragedy, which... Again, I'm not going to make fun of or something, but at the same time, it's like you had 2 years. So, yeah. So that one makes me kind of go, am I just too cold-hearted? Am I too cold-hearted? Well, just to cap off how cold-hearted I may or may not be, let's do our last story of the day. Another marriage deportation story. ICE detained a mother who was still breastfeeding. Her Marine veteran husband fights for her freedom. Okay, this one gets a little bit more complicated. I have also previously read this story because I was curious about it. Every time 2-year-old Noah asks about his mom, Adrienne Cloutry, I know I'm mispronouncing that. I apologize. Can only reply, quote, "Mommy will be back soon," unquote. The little one nods with a smile, though his father sees his sadness and tries to be strong, both for Noah and his 3-month-old sister Lynn, whom his wife was breastfeeding until ICE detained her in May. Cloutry, a 26-year-old who qualifies as a service-disabled U.S. Marine Corps veteran, described how his family's life was turned upside down when his wife, Paula, went in for a status hearing May 27th. They had hoped she could move forward with her green card process, but it turned into a nightmare for the young family. Seems to be a similar writing style from the last article. Paula, now 25. Now we have to keep a timeline on this because this article kind of jumps around a bit, and I had to look up a couple other things on a different website. Paula, now 25, was born in Mexico and arrived in the United States in 2014 with her mother. She didn't speak English and didn't understand much of what was happening, her husband recounts today. Okay, so she's 25. She arrived in the United States in 2014. So that was 11 years ago, if I'm not doing my math incorrectly. So that means that she was 14 years old at the time. Okay? Her mother submitted an asylum application, but mother and daughter did not get along, and soon Paula ended up alone. She spent the rest of her teenage years in homeless shelters. Mother of the Year award right there. In 2022, Adrian met Paula at a club in Palm Springs, California, during his last year in the military. Quote, "We officially started dating a month later, then we had our first child, Noah, and got married in February of 2024, he says. They moved to Louisiana and began the green card process for Paula. A year later, Lynn was born. They thought everything would go well, but Paula and her mother had lost contact after arriving in the United States. That's why the Cloartres didn't know there was a deportation order against her until a week before the status hearing that ended in her detention. That order was issued because Paula did not attend an immigration hearing. The notification apparently had been sent to her mother, who never told her." Okay, now the part that they don't mention here is that the deportation order occurred, unless they mention it later in the article, I don't know, but I read it elsewhere. So she came to the country when she's 14. In short order, I guess, she and her mother separated. And then the status hearing occurred 2 years later, the most significant one, which means that at the age of 16, in 2016, that's when the deportation order was issued. So the deportation order has been there for 9 years. So over the course of 9 years, the subject of this article had no idea, according to her, that her immigration status was already decided. Quote, "We went to a status adjustment interview where they verified that our marriage was real and, said everything was fine," Adrian says. "The interview on the surface seemed to have gone well." Okay. Quote, "We found out about the deportation order about a week before the appointment and tried to reschedule. But USCIS said no, so we went anyway," Cloartre explains. "We found out about the deportation order about a week before the appointment." Okay, they keep this lady's history, including her maiden name, completely obscured in every article that I've seen about this. So over the course of 9 years leading up to meeting her husband, getting married, having kids, and then going to the status thing, she had no idea that her deportation had already been ordered back in 2016. No idea. Okay. Also, just as a note, ordered under the Obama administration. So, anyway, quote, "We found out about the deportation order." Quote, "We were honest about the deportation order," he says. "At that moment, the interviewer went on to tell their supervisor and came back and finished the interview. Said we had passed and had to wait in the lobby for paperwork about our next appointment. Relieved, the Cloartres waited for about 20 minutes in a waiting room. Their children were with Adrian's parents. They had plans to go together to New Orleans after the hearing to visit the French Quarter, but their plans were abruptly cut off when 3 ICE agents appeared and arrested Paula. Quote, "We were confident that, since we were married and I was a veteran, they would at least allow us to resolve the deportation order and not detain her," Adrian says. Quote, "We knew the deportation order would probably cause a problem, but we didn't find out about it until a week before, and USCIS refused to let us reschedule, so we had no other choice but to go. My wife told the truth," unquote. Again, really? 9 years? 9 years and you had no idea? You knew your mother and you came to the country illegally, and admittedly, it came into the country when she was still a minor, so there's some sense in me of like, well, wouldn't DACA have sort of covered part of this? I really feel like there's some information missing here. Tricia McLaughlin, a spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, responded to a CNN inquiry about the case by saying an immigration judge issued a final order of removal in February of 2018. Okay, I was told it was 2016 in a different article. Okay, well, maybe I was led astray. Paola is in the country illegally, McLaughlin said, and President Donald Trump and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, quote, are not going to ignore the rule of law, unquote. On May 27, 2025, Paola filed an emergency motion to reopen her immigration case. We await a decision on this motion, McLaughlin said via email. Quote, illegal aliens can take control of their departure with the CBP Home app, she added. The United States is offering illegal aliens $1,000 and a free flight to self-deport now. We encourage every person here illegally to take advantage of this offer and reserve the chance to come back to the United States the right legal way to live the American dream. If not, you will be arrested and deported without a chance to return, unquote. The Calotres have been watching the development of the Trump administration's tough immigration policies, Adrian said, but they didn't think it would affect them so closely. Okay, dude. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much she told you or didn't tell you. I don't know how much you did or did not take it seriously. But if she knew that she was in the country illegally and it was never resolved, and like I say, for all the sympathy that I may or may not have for the people that make these decisions, the most sympathy I have is for the children that have absolutely no choice in the matter. When their parents, however irresponsible that they are, large or small, set them up for hardships like this. It just makes me sad and angry at the same time. Sangry. That's what it does. It makes me sangry. Not sangria, just sangry. Thank you, Assassin of the Gray. She had time to get covered in skank tats, but no time to file for a green card. Like all illegal aliens, she assumed crotch goblins would protect. Oh, Jesus. Holy cow. Well, thank you, Assassin. I think that's very generous of you. And for that money, I'll read that out loud. Gee. Crotch goblins. No, but seriously, it's like I don't. On my playlist on my channel, Deportation, Expatriate Games, I covered stories during the first Trump administration that sounded just like these stories over and over again. It's like, oh, I didn't know I had a deportation order. Oh, my asylum thing was filed for and considered. Oh, I've been here for 23 years. Why am I being arrested now? And it's like, you know you did not come into the country illegally. Now, in this lady's case, again, I feel like there's got to be something else going on here. Because if she was brought into the country at the age of 14, as far as I understand it, and someone can correct me, that would qualify her for considerations under DACA, which were in effect, I believe, at the time that she entered the country. So there are some things that can disqualify you from DACA consideration. And one of those clear-cut things, is if you have any kind of criminal record while you're in the country illegally and before you're given DACA considerations. Now, I don't know. But I found it interesting that they, in none of the articles that I've read, did they say, and maybe it's out there, but did they say the lady's maiden name? And I was like, why? Because I was thinking, it'd be pretty easy to check. There's a lot of public records out there. Just take the lady's name, look it up, and say, well, does she have a criminal record? Because that would explain it real quick. Why there was no out for her. So, again, there was a deportation order in place prior to... Now, in this case, it wasn't a misfiled piece of paperwork. It's because the lady's mom... And this is the chain of responsibility. Paola's mom is the original sin of this entire situation. She dragged her daughter across the border illegally and put her daughter into threat. Threat of legal problems, physical problems. Obviously, if they split up shortly after they got over here and the girl was living homeless for years, not Mother of the Year material. But at a certain point, at least in legal terms, after the age of 18, Paola becomes responsible for herself. And so between then and when she met her husband, her future husband, when she was like 23 or whatever, it was her responsibility to get her stuff sorted out. And the deportation order was apparently issued in 2018. So I don't know. And then she started having kids, knowing that her status was not assured. I can level a whole lot of blame at the lady's mother, certainly for putting her in this position, but at a certain stage of the game, especially when you start bringing other people into the world through your own choices, that's on you. So I feel the worst for those children. More wondering if they made this up. Well, in Keeverdam, I wonder if someone will write a Medium article about this case and sympathize with the wife. Like I said, there's a measure of sympathy I have for the wife for the situation that her mother put her in, but it's her life now. She's an adult. She should have seen to this years ago. And so, I am curious. I have to be curious because I don't know. Like what disqualifies her from considerations under DACA? That never came up in any. I looked at 3 different articles on this story trying to see if I could find some extra details, but none of them brought that up. Like, why wouldn't she be at least given the possibility? And my first thought is, does she have a criminal record? Because that'll nix it real quick. But I don't know. I can only speculate. Either way, 2 stories of sob stories over deportation issues. And like I say, my heart is hardened to a certain degree because of vicarious experiences I've had with my coworker doing all the right things and following all the rules. And, it wasn't easy. It was frustrating. It was time consuming for him and took a long time, but he followed all the rules. He came over here, and now he and his family are naturalized citizens. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the most American thing you can do. Respecting the law, respecting the rules, doing what you got to do. And he's as American as I am. So. And that is that. That is today's show, everybody. A little bit of swimming, a little bit of deportation. Sometimes deportation involves swimming. Or the attempt to avoid capture involves swimming. I don't know. 90 people watching. Holy cats. Now, here's the question, and I have to ask this question because I am a hobby YouTuber. Do the likes match the watches? I bet there's a better way to phrase that. There's probably a catchier way to do that. Anyway, if you haven't already hit the like button, please consider doing so. Or if you're over on the X machine, you don't have to hit the like button, but you do have to hit the retweet button. That's the equivalent. Beyond that, everybody. So, as a programming note, I will not be appearing on Midnight's Edge in the morning on Monday. Specifically because I have been invited to be the co-interviewer on an interview with somebody about a thing. Now, I don't know if I'm at liberty to discuss the details of the thing I'm interviewing on. I'm not interviewing for a job. I'm like doing an interview of someone for a story kind of thing. But as soon as I finish the thing that I'm helping interview on, and I can talk about it, I will talk about it. I will say, however, that it is on a subject that will be particularly interesting, I think, to the Midnight's Edge in the morning crowd. That's all I'll say. Not trying to, hype it up too much, but everybody loves a mystery. So as soon as I know, because I don't know, that I can say more about it, I will tell you about it. Probably be on Monday afternoon or Tuesday or something. But I'll be doing that Monday morning, so I won't be around for the Midnight's Edge in the morning episode on Monday. So if you don't see me there, that's why. Elsewise, you will be able to see me, unless something else happens, on Wednesday's Midnight's Edge in the morning, and then probably Friday's Midnight's Edge in the morning. And then, of course, Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the next episode of TED Excellence, we'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk with TEDx Bingo. What will the subject be this week? If it's anything like the subject we had last week, or on Thursday, it'll be interesting. Can't say it'll be educational, but it'll be interesting. And good, bad, or indifferent, as long as it's interesting. Also, do you know I have a Discord server? I don't know if you knew that I have a Discord server. Would you like to join the Discord server? Well, joining the Discord server is an easy thing to do, because all you have to do is click on the link in the chat. And you click on that link, you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you are not a bot, actually watch the stream, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is salmon. That's it. Just say hello, salmon, and I'll know that you watch the show. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity, whether it was to me or to the GoFundMe pinned to the top of the chat box. Thank you guys so much for that. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to all my friends in the Texas area. I hope that you and yours are all safe and well. If there's any doubt about that, I really, really, really hope that good news is on the way, but keeping an eye on that as well. So my thoughts and hopes go out to everybody over there in Texas. Anyway, not to leave on a dour note, everyone, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I hope your Sunday is a good one. I hope the rest of your week oncoming is well, and I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.